Clouds, Wind, and Storms. Written by Kira Freed. Weather happens near Earth. Introduction. Somewhere on Earth, almost every type of weather is happening right now. Some places have light, puffy clouds. Heavy rain or snow is falling in other places. Did you ever wonder what causes all these types of weather? Our planet is surrounded by a layer of air called the atmosphere. The atmosphere is made of masses of air that are constantly moving and mixing. Warm air masses mix with cold air masses. Dry air masses mix with wet air masses. The mixing of air masses causes wind, clouds, precipitation, and storms. Weather happens near Earth's surface. The sun's energy warms Earth's surface, which warms the air above it. But not all surfaces are heated equally. The parts of Earth closer to the equator get more heat than polar regions. Darker surfaces absorb more energy than lighter surfaces. Also, Earth's tilt makes parts of Earth get more sunlight than other parts during different seasons. When air that has received more heat from Earth's surface mixes with air that has received less energy, the result is weather. Weather is determined by the amount of wind, clouds, and precipitation. Wind. Wind is simply air on the move. We can't see it, but we can feel it. And we can see its effects on plants, flags, wind chimes, and other things. As air near Earth's surface gets warmed by its heat, the air gets lighter. The colder air, which is heavier, pushes down on it, squeezing it upward. As the warm air rises, it cools. As the cold air gets closer to the ground, it warms. Air is always moving, warming, and cooling, which makes wind. Think about the city of Chicago, which is on Lake Michigan. When the sun is shining, the air over land heats up more than the air over water. As warm air over the city rises, cooler air over the lake moves toward the land to replace the rising warm air. The movement of air creates a breeze from the lake to the land. This is called a sea breeze. Why is wind strong sometimes and just a light breeze at other times? Wind is stronger when the difference in temperature between the warm air mass and the cool air mass is great. When this happens, the cold air chases the warm air faster. Changes in weather are created when air masses of different temperatures meet each other. The line where a warm air mass and a cold air mass meet is called a front. Changes in weather tend to happen along a front. Have you ever noticed the lines on a weather map? Those lines show the location of fronts.
Measuring the wind. We measure the wind with an instrument called an anemometer. People measure the wind for many reasons. Information about wind speeds helps scientists predict the weather. Airplane pilots cannot take off or land if the wind is blowing too hard. Ship captains require safe wind speeds to enter harbors. Machines called wind turbines convert fast-moving wind into electricity. In some locations, the wind is too calm to use wind turbines.
Measuring the wind. Clouds. Clouds are made up of billions of tiny drops of water and tiny pieces of ice. The water drops and ice pieces float in the air because they are so small and weigh so little. To understand how clouds form, let's first learn about the different forms water can take. When we think about water, we usually think about its liquid form. Water can also take the form of a solid, which is ice, and it can also be a gas, which is called water vapor. Earth's water is always changing form. If water gets very cold, it freezes and becomes ice. If it gets warm again, the ice melts and returns to its liquid form. Water also changes from a liquid to a gas and back again. Without these changes, clouds could not form. Let's take a look at one important way that water changes. When the sun shines on an ocean or another body of water, it causes some of the water to evaporate. During this process, some of the liquid changes to water vapor, an invisible gas. The water vapor rises in the air. As the water vapor rises, it becomes cooler. Cool air doesn't hold as much water vapor as warm air. Some of the water vapor condenses or turns back into liquid water when it hits tiny bits of dust. When enough of these drops of water gather together, they form a cloud. You've probably noticed many types of clouds in the sky. The type of cloud depends on how high it is and how much water vapor is in the air. Do you know? Not all clouds make rain. Cloud type. Height in sky. Description. Forecasting. Cirrus.
So real quick, let's just go through some of these clouds that we more specifically talk about. So we definitely have talked about cirrus clouds. Cirrus clouds are located high in the sky. The description, kind of what they look like, we talked about that they are thin, wispy, and they're made of ice crystals because they're so far up in the environment or in the atmosphere that it's so cold. Cirrus clouds usually mean fair, pleasant weather for that day, and they usually go on to indicate that there's going to be a change of weather within the next 24 hours or so. So kind of keeping that in mind, that when you see a cirrus cloud in the sky could be a big sign for you that a low pressure system is headed our direction and causing maybe cloudy, wet conditions to take place with some precipitation. The next type of cloud that we'll very quickly talk about is the stratus cloud. Stratus clouds, we've talked about these. They are solid gray and they usually cover the whole sky. Remember, we talked about like these are our blanket clouds. They often create light mist or drizzle. You may have some of these where you just don't see any rain also. But one important thing to keep in mind is that when you see these, you usually do not see sunlight because it's such a blanket that covers the sky. The next one we're going to look at is Nimbostratus. Remember, we talked about that prefix or suffix nimbo. Nimbo usually signifies precipitation. Okay, so Nimbostratus are dark gray blanket of clouds, and these dark gray blanket clouds have light to moderate steady rain or snow, which means these are the kind of ones that you just kind of see like a steady all-day rain going on. Then we have cumulus clouds. Cumulus clouds are the white puffy. They're the ones that look like little cotton balls all over the place. And they indicate fair weather, but can grow upward like towers and change into storm clouds. So most days are going to be just fair weather clouds. But when they start growing upwards, we get the dastardly cumulonimbus cloud. And it is a top of towering cumulus clouds that get flattened by high wind. And they grow upward, and they are usually associated with thunderstorms. They can produce heavy rain, hail, snow, lightning, and sometimes even tornadoes. These are your big storm clouds. I know there are other clouds that are on this one, such as the stratocumulus and things like that, but it all has to do with the location in the sky and what they actually look like. So, yes, they are types of clouds, but not specifically ones that we learn as fifth graders.
Precipitation. We learned earlier that the moisture in a cloud can be water, ice, or both. As a cloud holds more and more tiny drops of water or pieces of ice, and the temperature gets colder, the water droplets and the pieces of ice begin to join. They get bigger and bigger until they become too large and heavy to stay in the cloud. they fall to the ground as rain, snow, hail, or sleet. These are all types of precipitation. Do you know? Raindrops aren't tear-shaped. They can be round, oval, or even almost flat.
And going along with that, guys, remember we've talked about this a lot. Whenever we talk about precipitation, the type of precipitation that we get depends a lot about the temperature. So colder temperatures can lead us to have like sleet or snow, and warmer temperatures, or at least above freezing, we could have rain. And even warmer temperatures, like summertime temperatures, we get hail. And down here at the bottom, we're kind of looking at the water cycle all over again, saying that the sun gives energy into liquid water. The liquid water evaporates and turns into water vapor, goes into the cloud, goes up into the sky, condenses, forms clouds, and then eventually becomes rain. And it precipitates and the cycle starts all over again.
The temperature of the air determines the form of precipitation that falls. Sometimes the air between the cloud and the ground is warm. Then the precipitation falls as rain. If rain freezes on the way to the ground, it becomes sleet. At other times, the air in the cloud is very cold. So is the air between the cloud and the ground. In this case, the precipitation falls as snow. Hail forms when ice gets blown up inside a cloud over and over, getting bigger until it falls. Storms. Storms are extreme weather. Many types of storms occur on Earth. As you read about storms on the next pages, think about how different air masses move and mix to produce them. Thunderstorms are the most common type of storm. They usually occur when air that is warm and full of moisture collides with cold, dry air. They are caused when warm, moist air rises quickly to form towering clouds.
And as you can see in this picture, warm, moist air has...
Storms.
That the warm, moist air rises when it hits the cold, dry air, and ice crystals bump into each other, causing lightning. So I know a lot of you have asked about lightning. This is kind of what's going on when you see that lightning. So that I thought that was a pretty neat picture I wanted to talk about.
Inside a thunderstorm cloud, many tiny pieces of ice bump into each other. All that movement creates static electricity. After a while, the cloud fills up with electricity and releases it as a burst of lightning. Lightning can go from one cloud to another cloud. It can also go between the cloud and the ground. Lightning makes thunder. Lightning heats the air around it. The hot air expands very quickly, which creates a strong wave of air. When the wave reaches your ears, you hear it as thunder. Thunderstorm safety. Lightning is extremely dangerous. Follow these tips to be safe. Look for shelter, such as a building or a car. Never stand under a tree. Lightning often strikes the tallest thing around. If you are outside and cannot find shelter, crouch down with your head as low as possible. Never lie down on the ground, because lightning spreads out through the ground after it strikes. Stay out of water during a thunderstorm and avoid touching metal. Water and metal are both good conductors of electricity. Do not use landline telephones or electrical appliances. The fiercest winter storm, a blizzard, has heavy snowfall and high winds. Blizzards can dump several feet of snow in a few hours. The wind that accompanies the storm whips around and piles the snow into huge snowdrifts. Heavy snow can collapse buildings, block roads, and bury cars and trucks. High winds can knock out electrical power.
And that's what just happened in Texas.
During warm months, large masses of warm, moist air form over warmer parts of the oceans. They begin to swirl around when cooler air moves in to replace the rising warm air. When this happens, huge storms called hurricanes begin to form. As the spinning air continues to move over warm water, the hurricane gets stronger. Hurricanes can cause terrible destruction from high winds and flooding. Hurricanes are measured by the strength of their winds and the amount of damage they cause. Do you know? Weather scientists use wind direction and wind speed to predict the path of a hurricane. But hurricanes can change course at the last minute. So the National Weather Service issues a hurricane warning only 12 to 18 hours before it reaches land. Tornadoes, another type of extreme weather, have the strongest winds on Earth. Tornadoes form when air masses with extreme temperature differences collide. Warm, moist air rises very quickly when this happens. Then a strong current of cold air rushes in to replace the rising warm air. It moves in so fast that it begins to rotate. This rotating wind causes a funnel cloud to form. Tornadoes rarely last more than 1/2 hour, but they can do great damage during that time. They can flatten buildings, pick up cars and trucks, and tear out trees by the roots. Like hurricanes, tornadoes are measured by the strength of their winds and the amount of damage they cause.
And guys, you'll see kind of right in the middle of the United States where this red is, it's called Tornado Alley. This is the area that is most common for tornadoes, and it's because of all of these different factors taking place. The warm, moist air rising, the cold, dry air pushing down, the warm, dry air pushing inward, and all those air masses meeting each other causes tornadoes to form in that area specifically.
Tornadoes can form anywhere in the world where warm, moist air masses meet cold air masses. But most tornadoes occur in the United States. Tornadoes are most common in the middle of the United States. Hot, dry air blows east from the Rocky Mountains. Warm, humid air moves north from the Gulf of Mexico. Cold, dry air blowing south from Canada bumps into these warm air masses. These conditions are perfect for the formation of tornadoes. Tornado safety. Follow these safety tips during a tornado. Go to a basement if possible. Otherwise, go to a closet or bathroom. Crouch down under a heavy piece of furniture or climb inside the bathtub. Cover your head with your arms. Cars and mobile homes can get lifted and moved by a tornado. You are safer outside. Lie down in a ditch or a depression in the ground. Stay away from doors and windows. Conclusion. Scientists know a great deal about how air masses move and mix together. They have many tools for studying wind, clouds, precipitation, and storms. They use these tools to predict the weather and try to keep people safe. But weather predictions are not always accurate. Nature is full of surprises. Still, we can all keep watching for clues and enjoy the many types of weather in our world. Weather instruments. These are some tools that help scientists predict the weather. Thermometers measure temperature. Anemometers measure wind speed. Weather vanes and windsocks measure wind direction. Barometers measure air pressure, which indicates fair or stormy weather. Radar detects precipitation. Airplanes take photographs of clouds. Satellites observe Earth's weather from space.
Okay, so here's a nice little look at the vocabulary in this book. How do I make it stop? Stop it. All right, and we'll just use this as a pause moment right there. All right, and that's the end of our book. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure that you have answered all the questions in your Ed puzzle and that you are submitting your assignment so it counts it as getting done. Thank you.